It's written there on the minutes?
No.
Okay, I need a motion to approve.
I motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? Not hearing any. Everybody who's in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. I guess right away we move into item 4, park dedication, and I think this is the part where Mr. Hinsman is present and here to give us an overview of the two items. John, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Park and Recreation Commissioners. Well, before us tonight, we've got 2 requests for parkland dedication. I'll go through what we're doing here in reviewing the request and the specifics of the project. The first one we've got up here is County Crossroads 4th Edition. So Highway 61, 316 on the ends, and here is Colborn's and the strip mall to the west. This big red area here, which has been zoned commercial for many years, is being sold to a developer, Enclave, to build 211 apartment units in 2 buildings. So as part of that, there is a plat and parkland dedication. So you're tasked with trying to determine what method of park dedication you should use. So looking at the site here, you can see it's primarily surrounded by commercial on the north end of it, and on the south end, you've got Cary Park. There is a small trail section that leads between, I think, these 2 homes that provides connection to this area into the Cary Park neighborhood and eventually to the Cary Park down here. So with park dedication, we can look at it in a couple of different ways. One, physical land dedication. You take land. One is a payment of cash in lieu of that land, a combination of both, or some private open space facilities for public use. We'll kind of go through that here in a second. This is what they're looking to build here. This is a mock-up of the buildings itself. 3-story buildings, 2 of them about 100 units apiece. Development's a little bit small here, but this is how it would, well, I guess it's sideways. That doesn't help. Exactly. I didn't notice that one, but turn your heads this way. This is 33rd Street. One apartment facing 33rd, the other one down to the south. This is an existing stormwater pond down in this location. So we take a look at our comprehensive plan and what we have thought of for park dedication in the future. So within here, we've got our existing parks and we have future parks. On this map, we don't have any future parks that are identified. So if we're looking at parkland dedication, through the formulas we have in the code, we would generate about 2.44 acres as a required parkland dedication, or about 15.6% of the gross area of the site. So you could take a 2.4 acre park as parkland dedication if you chose to do so. Taking a look at the comprehensive plan, and did we anticipate taking a park in this area? No, there is not anything identified here. Looking at other ways in which we look at park dedication, does the land abut an existing park or open school space property? It doesn't. There's not one adjacent to it. Could it serve as a buffer between commercial, industrial, and residential? Got a kind of a unique situation here where this property kind of is surrounded by commercial on one end. So really the buffer does not come into play. There's not really any unique topographical features other than that little wetland stormwater pond down there. So looking at parkland dedication here, our recommendation would be payment of cash in lieu of land. At the present rates, that would generate about $232,000, which is $1,100 a unit times the 211 units that are provided on this property. So that is the recommendation that I have, and certainly I could stand for any questions, and looking for a recommendation from the board on the method of parkland dedication. Thanks.
Thanks, John. We'll open this up for discussion. Commissioners?
Scott Zuzak here. Just a couple questions, John. So the ward that this goes to is the one that is also getting the cash in lieu of parks from the other development that is south of town, I believe?
That's a good question. I'm trying to remember if this is Ward 2 or not. I know it generally is
Okay.
east of 61, but I can't recall what happens after the split of 316.
Certainly. And I don't know that either. That's why I was asking. The only other question I have is, out of these 211 units, I mean, are we talking, how many children?
It's a good question there. I mean, they're combinations of 1, 2, I don't think there's many 3-bedroom units. You could see kids generated, certainly.
Certainly.
As far as private facilities they're proposing, there's a pool that they have. I'm not aware of any other park, play, private equipment that they are proposing on the site.
Okay. The only other question, and this is just something that I'm looking at, is I'm wondering if maybe a small private park for them that, I was reading some of the guidelines here on that kind of stuff too, and that's open to the public. But if we have 211 units, that's quite a few units. I mean, we could be talking 300 kids, and they're gonna go 700 feet to a park. I really don't see that happening. And they're also in a commercial area. Where are they gonna play besides the pool that I'm assuming is gonna be fenced off at all times? Not a lot of common areas besides these big retaining ponds either. So that, I'll stop at that and see what you have to say.
Sure. Yeah, as far as how many kids this would generate in the development, it's hard to say what that would be. You know, with Cary Park, yep, it's a little bit of distance down here. I think it's still within your guidelines of placement of parks, but, you know, whether you would take a look at creating a private park here and providing some sort of break on their cash in lieu of land payment, that might be an option. Looking at the map itself, and sorry, this is sideways, looking at, you know, where that area might be. They've got the site pretty intensely developed here with 33rd Street, parking and garages up here, garages in this area. You've got this pond area, so you might be able to sneak something down in this area here. This is the trail connection to the south. So there might be some opportunity for private park development in this area, but it does get a bit challenging.
I guess the thing I look at is, even where I'm at 19th and Pine, the closest park is 0.2 of a mile. That's more than 700 feet. And I know as a kid, I went there. I know my kids went there. I know the neighbor kids still go there. And they're walking across Pine, they're walking down a sidewalk, they're walking down residential streets. This is crossing one street to get to a path, you know, on a path, basically. I don't know if the distance is necessarily that big of a deal, and like he said, it's still well within the guidelines that we have, you know, for the parks. Because keep in mind, like out at, you know, Veterans Park, and all the, what is it, Glendale stuff, all those folks there, the closest thing they have is the park behind the concession stand at Vets. That's a lot more also than 700 feet.
Any other comments, commissioners?
I have one, actually. You mentioned something about future park dedication. Where is that? Because where would a future park dedication be set out in the comprehensive plan? Do we have any of those in the city?
Yeah, when
Okay.
you take a look on the map that I showed, which is go back here, which is a snapshot of a portion of the map.
Yep.
If we looked out in other places, they would show future parks. And there's a handful of them. I want to say around 10. I remember seeing a future park
Okay.
number 8 on another development, so that one sticks in my mind. But yeah, most of these are going to be more on the fringes of development, or fringes of the city, where we'd have more development that way to make sure that we're planning for future parks. So since this one is not as much on the fringe, I don't see any that appear on this portion of the map.
Got it. Thank you. And I was just asking mainly because, I mean, the last 6 we've done have all been cash in lieu. I'm just wondering if there would ever be an option for a park. So.
Thank you. Any other comments, commissioners? Okay, I'm looking for a resolution to one way or the other.
I would motion for that spot, especially considering there's just not a ton of spots for them to build a park. I think the cash in lieu is probably our best option. There is going to be something that I'll bring up after John is done that I have some questions on for Chris. regarding the cash in lieu stuff, but I would motion that we accept cash in lieu of land and, for this one.
Okay, motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Further discussion?
No, I have nothing. I like Bruce was saying, I have a couple other questions about this cash and lieu stuff, but, but we'll bring that up later. I would second it also, like Craig was gonna do.
Okay, hearing no other comments, I'll close the comments discussion. We'll move the motion. All commission members that are in favor of this motion to accept the money in lieu of, raise your hand or say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thanks, John. I guess we'll move on to the second one then.
Okay. Same consideration here, different location. We're looking downtown now at a 1.1 acre property located between 3rd Street and 4th Street. This is Tyler over here and the CP Railroad, former Bailey Street on this side. You can barely see the MRT coming forward down here by the north end of the site and passing by on the east end of the site here. This is what we commonly refer to as the former UBC site. We picked it up about 15 years ago. UBC moved out. This building over here was used by city storage for a number of years, and if you've been down there lately, see that it's being dismantled. It was sold and being moved off site. We've entered into a development agreement with a private developer via Hedra to sell this property for 89 units of apartments. This would be a 4-story apartment building over ground floor parking, so a total of about 5 stories altogether on the site. So we're looking at the method of park dedication for this entity. So this is kind of what the property would look like itself. The development of it is pretty tight. You've got the building on most of the site. You've got some surface parking here and also some garage parking at grade in this location of it. So looking at park dedication methodology for this, looking at the map of park locations out of the comprehensive plan, don't see anything new within this area, which is not surprising since it is a pretty urban site. We've got 1.17 acres. We could generate in park dedication about 7,900 square feet. So that's what we could take for physical land dedication if we chose to go that methodology. Taking a look at options for parkland dedication, we don't have a designation down here for future parkland in that area. Looking at the need for future parks, we do have the trail that abuts the site that provides access to, it's not really shown here, but the little railroad depot park that we have on the north side of the parking lot, which is less than a block away. And then we've got Levy Park, which is about 850 feet away. That's all accessible by trail and sidewalks. Doesn't adjoin a open space or park property. Doesn't really serve as a buffer. This is a mixed-use area where you've got some commercial residential coming into the more residential area, and it doesn't have any topographical features. So our recommendation on this one would be payment of cash in lieu of land. This I know would go into a Ward 2 account, and this would be a total of $97,900 based on $1,100 a unit and 89 units. So I can stand for any questions.
Thanks, John. Is it Ward 2 or Ward 1? Isn't everything?
Ward 2, did I say 1?
No, you said 2, but I thought it was 1.
No, it is 1. I take that back. I don't know why I'm thinking that, but yes, Ward 1.
It's Ward 1, right? Okay, commissioners, questions? Anybody? Not seeing any. I'll take a motion.
I'll motion this one cash in lieu as well, because you're talking walking across a parking lot to a park that's already there. I mean, anything more, there's nothing more cut and dried than it has that access.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I will second.
Okay, further discussion? Anybody have anything? Seeing none, we'll call the motion. All those in favor say aye or raise your hand. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Hearing none. Passed. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Okay, now, are we doing any further discussions with Mr. Hinsman, commissioners, or are we done with them? Okay,
All right.
Thanks, John.
Good luck.
Take care.
All right, thanks, guys.
Go cheer on the hockey team.
Yep.
Thanks, John.
Okay, department updates. You're on, Chris.
Thank you, Commissioners. Some brief updates from me, and then I'll let Paige give some updates on her current programs. The Isabel Park redevelopment project, bids are due on Thursday, February 10th at 10 a.m. We'll do a virtual bid opening at that time. Then we'll calculate bids, we'll ensure bonds are made, and then review, do reference checks and those sorts of things, and make sure we find a good, reliable, responsible contractor for that project. Timeline has that project finishing mid-July, so that is a good thing. And everybody should keep their fingers crossed that we get good pricing for bids. It'll be, that could be a make or break for it here. But looking forward to that. As you are all probably aware, the arena refrigeration plant is looking favorable at this point. It started in the governor's bill. Instead of coming from the legislature to the governor's desk, the governor actually started it. So that is really good for that project, and we remain hopeful that that $1.46 million will come from the state bonding bill to do the new refrigeration plant, new west rink roof, and potentially solar on that west rink roof as well. So that is looking good. Again, keep your fingers crossed. Twist arms if you need to, that will be great. The LCCMR, so Legislative Commission on Minnesota Resources, something around there. That is the proposal, the grant proposal we put in for Lake Rebecca Park and that surrounding area. They still have not made a funding recommendation on that, but they are trying to prepare for when that does come out of the legislature. So we've been in contact with them, and again, we're crossing our fingers. We're asking for $2 million for that area. It could come in at $2 million, it could come in at $1 million, it could come in at nothing at all. We just don't know yet. So hoping that stuff comes through as well. The Park Keeper 2 position that we are adding back to our staff, we did a second round of advertisement for that. And I think we have 25 or so applicants for that. That was closed last Thursday, so staff are reviewing those applications and working to set up individuals for interviews for that process. So that should be coming in the next couple of weeks here. Hopefully get that person on board here yet this spring. Along with that, we'll be advertising for our summer seasonal positions, both at the pool as well as park maintenance here pretty soon, and get that stuff rolling and on board. So if you know any people that are interested in those types of positions, we were successful in increasing the seasonal wages for this summer. So I think our park maintenance will be $15 an hour, lifeguard will be $15 an hour. Some of our concession staff and guest service staff will be the $13.50 an hour. So we are making progress with that. So hopefully we're able to entice as many people as we need and move forward with that. This summer, as part of our budget, I think there's 4 or 5 basketball courts in neighborhood parks that will be, they'll have a variety of different treatments provided to them. Some are mill and overlay, some are just seal coat and stripe, but one at least in each ward that we're gonna attack with park dedication dollars actually. So we'll get some improvements going this summer with those. That's kind of the big stuff other than Lake Isabel Park. And the Community Investment Fund, remind everyone, we did have a kickoff meeting in late January. We did have some technical difficulties with that meeting. Apparently you cannot run 2 Zoom webinars at one time through the same license. But we did hold that meeting. It was an hour later than planned. We did record it, and we did provide that recording to all the folks that we knew were in attendance or wanted to attend that. We also have it posted on our website, so folks can get information about that. Also encourage folks that are interested in that to have a conversation with me. I'm the point of contact, the staff point of contact for the Community Investment Fund. Come on in, ask me questions, work through what your project might be, and put together your application. I'm there for question and answer sessions all the way through the deadline. The deadline is March 31. That is just for this first round and this first year. If we don't have enough applications at that time, we'll open it again eventually, but we want to be fair and make sure that folks that get their applications in by March 31 have kind of the first crack at the nut with that. So I've had multiple meetings with interested parties. So that's going good, and we're having really good conversations about the needs and desires and partnerships that are available here in town. So those are the big updates from me. And if Paige wants to give some quick updates about her programs, that would be great.
Yes, I sure can. This winter, we held an ice fishing program and snowshoeing program in the month of January. We'll hold another ice fishing program coming up on Saturday, February 12th, which is an opportunity for adults, youth, families. We actually get a lot of college-age kids come out and ice fish. We provide all the equipment. We partner with National Park Service, the DNR, MPCA for the Get the Let Out program, and Carpenter Nature Center. And then we have a snowshoeing program coming up. We partner with Dakota County and their park naturalist. So we put on a program down in J.C. Park area and explore kind of those floodplain forest natural lands out there. And then again, that's free and snowshoes are provided. So encouraging people to get outdoors in the winter and active and use our park spaces. Spring, we have quite a few programs coming up. We have a lot of annual events, Parks and Trails Cleanup, our Birding Day, our Arbor Day Festival, our Shred event, our spring cleanup for the city of Hastings, which will be over a 2-week period rather than 1 day this year. And then, of course, summer programming will come before we know it. So watch for that come April. And that's all I have.
Thanks, Chris and Paige. Commissioners, do you have any questions for either one of them?
I just want to comment on the candy cane hunt was a really cool idea. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, last year was our first year doing it, and this year I think we had like 500 people participate.
Okay.
It was like 211 families, so it was
Wow.
fun.
Very cool.
Scott, you brought up a concern about the park dedication funds. You are not the only one who has a concern with park dedication funds. One of the things that has been discussed away from here is, why do we have all this money sitting for one ward that probably will never have a new park in it because of the geographic location it is in the city? So, but if something gets built there, now we got to put money into a fund that we can't use. And looking at some of the neighboring cities like Rosemont, for example, their park dedication money goes into a fund for the city, the whole city. And so my thought was, is that something that we need to explore here? Because if you're getting $230,000, out behind Colborn's, and then this other housing development comes in, and there's another $500,000 that comes into park dedication fund, but you can't spend that down on the riverfront, or you can't spend that on Lake Rebecca, or you can't spend it someplace else in town that needs help. We've got, $500,000 sitting there. It seems foolish to me. I don't know what kind of approach we need to take to try to get that changed. I don't know if we need to draft something up at a later date and say, hey, this is kind of what we're thinking, and propose it to council. I don't know, but I think that's something that as a committee, we need to look at and say, hey, do we want to continue this divided process, or utilize it around the city no matter how it gets used, as long as it gets used for parks?
Thanks, Bruce. Anybody else have a comment? Scott?
Yeah, I will comment on that. And I agree with Bruce on this, and I think it would help Chris and Paige in the grand scheme of things to diversify this money throughout other wards. And you're right, Bruce, I don't know how to do it. I think it's somewhat kind of silly that, we're the last two large sums of money that have come into the park in lieu of cash have come into locations where if we don't annex a bunch more land out to the south, we're not gonna put another park out there. So there's a large sum of money. We can rebuild those parks a lot and we can make them look really cool. But that money could be used someplace else. So Chris, I don't know, or Paige, maybe you guys know what we can do to try to get this changed. So like Bruce was saying, and I didn't realize that in Rosemont, that it actually does go into one large pool and then you kind of decipher from there. But the whole fact of the matter that we're keeping everything in one ward just kind of seems a little ridiculous in one way. I mean, it's so industrial out in that ward, especially on that south end right now, unless we annex more land and start bringing in more residential use. And what are we going to do with this money? And Chris, I'm sure you would love to spend it someplace else. But your hands are tied also. So I'm just wondering, what can we do as a commission to help us open up this money so that it can help every park in Hastings instead of just Ward 1, I believe, is it not?
That's all Ward 1, yes.
Okay.
Well, and the other side of it is you do expand out there, you're gonna have spots where we're gonna say, no, you need to put a park here.
Right, exactly.
Because you're gonna have more land. So, as it sits right now, as we keep getting this cash, like you said, Chris's hands are tied in some places, and I think we need to be able to utilize it all over town.
And I agree with you on that, Bruce. If we're gonna annex some more land, we're gonna say, Chris or somebody, the stipulations are gonna say, okay, we're not 700 feet from Cary Park anymore. We have to put another park in. So at that point, we're just gonna say, okay, you have to put in a park. I don't care about how much cash you're gonna give me. But all of this cash that comes into one ward, and I'm sure it happens all the time, but I just look at the last couple of times, and I haven't been here long, and you guys are all probably looking at me like, okay, you're a fool. But we got a large sum of money that's sitting there right now in lieu of cash, and so what are we gonna do with it?
Can I ask, how long has this policy been, is this a
Hey, let's
historical
have Chris
thing?
give a response here to.
Yeah, I believe, and without having dates on some of the documents, that park dedication has been split into wards since the city started collecting park dedication. There is a requirement, legal requirement, to collect and target your funding that's collected through park dedication to a geographic location. Does it need to be as restricted as wards? I don't know the answer to that. You can look at other communities and they choose to do it a different way. So I think to answer for commission what needs to be done, I think just raising the question here. And that sparks me a little bit to now have some conversations with city attorney and find out legally what are our options here before we try to pursue an option. What park dedication funding can be used for is land acquisition for a future park. And park in a broad term, not just a park with a playground and a picnic shelter. Can be natural and open space, just open recreation area. It can be used for trails and trail corridors. And it can be used for park development and redevelopment of existing parks. So for instance, we're doing the basketball courts, that's a redevelopment of a piece of infrastructure inside of each of those wards. So parkland dedication funding is being used for that. Does it tie our hands a little bit? Potentially it does, right? Because that right now that funding is tied to a very specific geographic location. Some places in town are mostly built out with residential and property and physical barriers like rivers and lakes and railroad tracks and those sorts of things. Others aren't. They're not restricted by physical barriers, but there's private land holdings that would have to be annexed in. And to John's point, he's right. Most of the future parks, I think there's 8 or 9, 10 that are identified in the comprehensive plan and the comprehensive plan map. And those are on the fringes of town. Basically, the core of Hastings has parks within a half a mile of every residence, and that's what we shoot for. So when we're looking at newer developments that are even on the fringe, it's looking to see if there's going to be, if they're going to fall within that half a mile distance, and there's no large barriers in the way for people to be able to travel back and forth.
Chris, I think this would be a good workshop issue that we could sit down and, as a commission, develop a little bit more and try and, I know a couple, 3 years ago, we talked about the price point for the cash in lieu of and wanted to see some changes in there. And I think it maybe is, with new commissioners, it might be a good time to sit down and kind of
Refresh.
bring that up and kind of maybe start the discussion again and try and see if we can find a time for a workshop and kind of develop this a little bit more.
Thank you, Dave. That was my next question, actually, was can we revisit the whole formula that was being used? Because I know that was something we started a couple years ago before COVID, and then basically all hell broke loose and we weren't meeting, so.
Yeah, and that, for commission's information, that is one of the topics that's on a future agenda for conversations with Finance Committee and Park and Rec Committee and ultimately City Council is, from commission's recommendation a few years ago to bring the new methodology forward to City Council to consider. It just, there hasn't been, that hasn't had the opportunity to be considered yet, but it is on the radar. We're talking about $500,000 every year or $1 million every year for trail projects that we need. We're talking about $350,000 park redevelopments every year or multiples per year coming up. There's a lot of infrastructure, there's a lot of need, and we need to start exploring more funding options. And the reality is that new development should pay their fair share to have the same level of service that existing residents do. And that's the whole methodology. So that's on
I
future.
I think in agreement, the commission would like to see this as a workshop item and kind of develop a little bit more on that. I think our agenda is pretty much complete with that. Is there any other items that this commission would like to talk about tonight? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn. Let's go watch some hockey.
Okay, Bruce motioned. I need a second.
Second.
Motion's made and second to adjourn. Folks, we are adjourned. Thank you.